it's not just because I have a good interpersonal relationship with him. You can visibly see what he's doing. Look, this is Aba. When we went to Okwa, we came back and then we were running through Aba yesterday. It was amazing. It was clean. The place is very well kept. And you can now drive from Ngwa Road and just go all the way down and you find yourself at Obo Hill. Never happened before. So when I see all the things that are happening around here, the only thing I can tell him is, please continue what you are doing. Because I've also, my constituents talk to me. My constituents come and tell me, this is, in fact, all that they do now is that every day they will send me one message. This is happening in this place. Can you tell the governor for him to help us, So I'm even sorry for him because he has already set the pace. He can't slacken anymore. Because you know what happens when you set the pace? What happens whenever you start doing so well is that people expect you to do far more. And if you slacken, then they say, he's no longer doing anything. So we will just encourage him. He's doing extremely well for Abians. I will only say this. The welfare of the people is why you were sworn into office. And if you put the welfare of the people first, which is what you took an oath of office for, then you're doing what you have sworn to do. Part of the problems in Nigeria is not people take oath of office and go away and just don't do what they are supposed to do. The Constitution is very clear. It has the areas where it says, which is the fundamental objectives of state policy. It's all there in the Constitution. The rights that Nigerians have is also there in the Constitution. So just go ahead and do those things. Sometimes people make governance look at it as if it's rocket science. I do not think so. I think it's simply pure, focused leadership. Just provide that focus and let every other thing work for yourself. And of course, ensure that your subordinates key into the same vision that you have, so that as you're doing, they are also going along with you. For you to be a good politician and for you to serve your people, you must have that burning desire in you for service. You must have that desire to serve your people. I came into politics as a dare. Let me put it this way. I never came out to do politics. What happened was that sometime in 1998, and when they did that, the first elections to the National Assembly under the Abacha regime, I would usually come home. I was in Lagos then. I was doing business. I was doing relatively well. I had taught in the university. I had worked in the corporate life, and I had now established a business for myself as an Igbo man. And I saw the persons that came out at that time to run elections, and I felt that these people, we should have a better representation than this. And so I had this mentor, a spiritual mentor. When I say spiritual, not that I see him as a spiritual, it's just that we are in the same action group in the church, and we used to discuss politics, and he was quite older than me. And when we were discussing about contemporary things, and I spoke, and I just mentioned that the set of people I saw who are trying to run it, and he said to me, you see, this is the problem with all of you who think that politics is dirty. So you leave it to those people to do, and then you come around to complain. If you think you're much better or that you can provide much better than them, why don't you go and contest? So, number one, as you're asking, for those who want to join politics, you must have that desire. Number two, you must also be prepared to accept failure. When I came first time, I ran everywhere. I did everything they said I should do. I walked around with people and I failed. In fact, I failed dramatically. And let me tell you how I failed. At that time, they said there were going to be primaries somewhere. And that we should all appear because they are going to do option A4 for the primaries. Then, it was the party called UNCP. And so, they sent me a message, the party chairman, and said this was the school where we were going to do it. I went to that school and there was nobody there. I didn't know that they had gone somewhere else. So I sat there waiting for them. And at the end of the day, by the time I realized it, they had finished the primary somewhere else, taken the results and gone away. And so I went, you know how you normally do, oh, we don't agree, we went to write petition, this and that, went to do. But eventually, I came to the realization that I need to learn and didn't need to. So what I did was, I said, fine, I left it. I called everyone who was part of our team in UNCP, and we went and supported the person who won. Despite the fact that they said we didn't actually do anything. And so it didn't take a long time. I think Abacha died, the transition was cancelled, and then it was time to go again. And I still came back, which is lesson number 2. You must be consistent. If you want to do politics, you have to be in politics. You don't come back and go, or think that whenever you just come in, you will get everything on a platter of gold. In fact, I think that if you come into politics and win immediately and then go into office, you may be prone to making a lot of mistakes. Politics teaches you about human behavior at its finest and also at its lowest. It's one of those extremes that you always see the two extremes inside it. And it's those things that I say that you need if you want to be a politician. You must have the grit, you must have the consistency and all that. And of course, the final one, money is the best friend of a politician. Never think that you will do politics without money. I've tried it, it didn't work. I've seen that you must be ready. Otherwise, you will have to mortgage yourself. You will have to sell your conscience in order to always belong and all that. And that is why you find people look at politicians and they say, these are a very, very bad set of people. They are sycophantic now. It's just that people are trying to see whether they can make way without... there is nowhere that you can get anything without hard work. Politics also needs hard work. You have to knock on doors. People will reject you. You have to continue meeting people, including those who reject you. You have to explain why you're doing A, B, or C. If they don't know your viewpoint or they don't understand where you come from or how or where you want to go, of course they will never. And the last thing that you need to know in politics, always tell your neighbor. What I mean by always tell your neighbor is a story that was told by a United States senator who was called a man of the house, a United States congressman. He was going around. He didn't tell the next door neighbor to him. And on the voting day, she came and voted against him. And he said, why would you vote against me? And he said, well, you have been going everywhere, but you have never told me that you're running. Always tell your neighbor that you're running. That is why you see politicians every time we are carrying drink to A, B, C, D, because somebody will just sit around and say, he never told me that he's running for anything, so why should I support him, So you need to, at all times, let your constituents know where you are, how you're going, and where you want to go. As for Nigerians, I can say this. They are also very supportive. They know what is good. They know what is right. They know the best way forward. The only thing I can say at this point regarding the elections is that it will be necessary for us to remove all the human elements from an election. If there's a way we can reduce the human element, then manipulation and all that will not be there, and results will count. At the point at which we got the Electoral Act in the last elections, I think it was in Electoral Act of 2022, that we put in direct transmission of results from the beavers, from both the polling booths and the rack centers. We thought that had covered everything, but we never knew that there can be a glitch in the in the server for the presidential elections. So right now, I think one of the things that we have to also tinker with will be, what happens if there's a glitch? Do you delay and take in whatever you get after? Or if there's a glitch, then the election will be... So those are the questions that we have to ask going forward. It's very salutary that those who are in the midst of affairs that happen in Nigeria will one day tell their story. So I think Babangida has told his story, and out of his story there are a lot of snippets that come out of it. I'm one of those who think that we shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater, so we can take some things out of his story. Because I think that some of the things that he said do not exactly gel. And one of the things that I don't agree with him is he cannot tell me that he can't be commander-in-chief and somebody else is pulling the strings behind. That is not... what are you a commander-in-chief for? If somebody else will be pulling the strings and deciding what happens in your own government. That is, by the way, anyway. The fact of that it was not an Igbo coup in 1966, I think that's a fact that everyone knew. All that happened was that people who wanted to look for an opportunity to deride the Igbo nation, to find fault with the Igbo nation, simply turned everything around, and the story has always been there. If you read his book, he said it. This is why we struck. And he said clearly there, we all came together in the national interest in order to make Obafemi Awolowo president. He said it clearly. And everyone knows. But throughout the history of Nigeria, there has always been the fact that every little thing that concerns the country, they use the Igbo head to want to solve the break the coconut of Nigeria. That's all that happens. So all the pogroms that happened from the 1950s to the 60s, at any time that there's any little thing, they say, where are the Igbos? So that you will kill them and blame them. So the fact that Babangida now says, oh, it wasn't an Igbo, it's a fact that we know, and it's a fact that we accept. What it will do for us is simple. Anytime anybody shows up with that type of narrative anymore, we will tell him that, well, go back to all the sources, including Babangida's book. You will see that what you're saying is correct. So that is one prop against the Igbos that has now been removed. But we're still waiting for that book by General Gowon, because he was a dramatist personnel and a person that was part of making sure that all the, like Babangida said, the missteps and the mistakes that were done at that time. So we need to hear his story. It's always good for these stories to come out, because we are in a period where we need national catharsis, a way of exhaling, let's say, and ventilating all our listen, so that we can build a more perfect union. If we don't have that, then we will always continue to form as we.